Since there's no big trailers for us to talk about today, I would like to open this video by taking us back in time to a simpler time in Vanguard history when we didn't think this game would have a power creep problem. Or that said power creep problem will become so bad they'd have to reboot the whole goddamn franchise after only 7 years. I'd like to take us back to episode, I believe it's 8 of the original series, when Aichi and his two boring and uninteresting sidekicks went to the card shop. What was it, Ultra Rare? I don't remember. I don't care. Anyways, so after the shenanigans of this episode of facing off against Korin, meeting Rekka, we are introduced to Suiko. Suiko, when she comes on screen, has this very intelligent, very calm demeanor to her. She gives Aichi King of Knights Alfred, she seems to know more about the plot going on, so this was really interesting because it made many people, myself included, believe that what if Suiko is supposed to be the main villain of the whole thing? Yeah, that was sort of a cool idea, because in other card game animes, you never see a main female villain. And more importantly, you never really even see a villain who just looks like they could be a normal person you'd run into on the street. With Cardfight Vanguard clearly trying to take a much more realistic approach and a much more grounded universe, we felt like this would be a really interesting way to go for it, and we all got really excited. And as the season progressed, and you saw that Suiko was this calculating, manipulative person in the background, sort of guiding Aichi and Ren and just the whole sort of Vanguard community in the direction she needs for her own goals, and how Psyqualia is clearly something she knows about, and she's letting all this insanity with Ren and Aichi go on for a goal that we can only imagine. We all got super excited and thought it was going to be something really interesting. Then, like all things that killed this franchise, Season 2 happened, and that was the end of it. Not only did it turn out Suiko was a henchman, it later turned out she was just sort of someone that was found off the street, had her mind wiped, and was turned into a pawn, and don't worry, this never gets resolved. But if that's not enough, I could probably have accepted all this if the people who then took over as the villains were going to be interesting. Well, it turns out who we were building up was a villain, or at the very least was doing something they shouldn't. Turned out to be basically nothing. This asshole made no sense as a character. Oh, and the villain turned out to be a cloud. A cloud! That was the bad guy for Cardfight Vanguard. A fucking cloud. So yeah, it's a safe bet that Cardfight Vanguard has never really pulled off a villain. And G also did not. Before anyone says, well, you didn't watch all of G. Bitch, I'm about to finish G Gears Crisis. Yeah, it took me like 4 years, but I'm doing it, damn it. Anyways, the reason I felt it was good to open with this is because this episode did a lot to foreshadow potential villain roles and where characters are going. Let's begin with Suiko. And Suiko's introduction, or her sort of big card fight with Naoki, I quite liked this. It obviously was a very textbook way to how Angel Feather worked, but it was done with this very sort of clever visualization of everything. If you look, every turn in this fight, Naoki's body language and Suiko's body language are in perfect contradiction to each other. Naoki is very erratic. He's very moving around. He's got very excited expressions, very much, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna win! And Suiko is very calm, very calculating. It really does a lot to set up the character's personality. She is somebody who thinks ahead of everyone else. She is somebody who can remain calm in a tough situation. That's very important to establish when you're going into your much more serious arc with your much more villainous, potentially, characters. I say potentially because I haven't read the manga, and I feel like I shouldn't get my hopes too up for this. Anyways, so yeah, I quite enjoyed the fight. It was nice to see Angel Feather, especially because I know it's a powerful deck. The Vermilion thing was funny. It's a very good fight, and also that Yellow Gem Carbuncle scene. Also that Yellow Gem Carbuncle art. What is going on here? Anyways, so then we move on to basically just 10 minutes of character introduction. I kind of felt like they didn't have much of a plan for this episode, so they just kind of had to fill time. And in this time filling, I quite liked what we got. We were then introduced to Rekka, aka the one redhead in anime I have no desire to fuck, who then introduced us to Takudo. Takudo is a very interesting character in the Cardfight Vanguard lore because they pretty much built him up for nothing, and in here it's looking like he is going to potentially play a serious role as a villain based on the OP. What I like about Takudo is I just think it's a cool concept for a villain. Like, just this weird, creepy little kid character. And what I liked about his role in this episode was, though it wasn't anything over the top or crazy, you kind of get this sense, just like with Suiko, of his calculating, of his thinking. Like, the way he sort of talks to everyone, it kind of felt like every word he said to someone was gauging the best way to manipulate him. The way he's going to Aichi, what's your next goal gonna be? Or the way he talks about Korin and all these things. It kind of felt like there's an ulterior motive to everything he said, so good credit to the actor. And this leads into my favorite moment of the episode, when he, just like with Tetsu last week, just flat out says, I'm interested in Psyqualia. And Tetsu's like, I'm interested in Psyqualia. Hopefully all the card fighting going on will be something to help us get clues. And Ren shuts them off. This is amazing. This is the first time Ren has ever had real character development. And it's such a good scene. Like, Ren is just like, no, that is enough. It tells you everything you need to know. Ren is basically trying to keep Tetsu in check, so that way this doesn't happen again. It gives the character a lot more depth, especially because in the original series, and then when he comes back in G, you get the assumption Ren is just this stupid asshole who just kind of goofs around and probably doesn't even remember all the horrible crap he did. But in 1 second, one line of dialogue, I was able to get a complete sense of how everything that has happened has affected him, and how he now has to sort of take the charge and keep everything under control from his end. It really makes Ren feel like a better character. And then from there, we just kind of get the scenes of everyone just kind of talking, which I actually kind of liked, because what I liked about this whole thing is, obviously next week we're going to get into some more serious shit with Ibuki and all that. So that means we're going to go in a more serious direction altogether. So having this last little episode of just like fun and just like the idea of the enjoyment you just get with Vanguard, I think maybe will help lead to a much more dramatic feeling when the tone shift happens. But just the whole little thing in general had this very nice sweetness to it. Naoki loses to Suiko, and he's just kind of like, so what do I do now, guys? Do I play this card? Do I play that card? Everyone laughs. And then they're at the table eating lunch, and everyone is having fun. No one's being mean to each other. We get a cute little rivalry respark between Masaki and Asuka. Aichi and Ren just play Vanguard for the fun of it. Everyone's kind of having this moment of fun, and I feel like if it's played correctly when we get into the darker stuff, that's going to make it feel a little bit more dramatic, because now that innocent, happy life has been taken away. So I'm really hoping that succeeds. As I open this video with, Cardfight Vanguard has yet to really pull off a good main villain. So we'll see where that goes. Last thing there is to talk about is the Ibuki introduction. It's kind of weird. Now, I've never watched the movie they did, Neon Messiah. It's okay. Next to nobody else did. But seeing Ibuki in G, and also mostly watching G for the dub, it's a little weird seeing him young, as obviously there he's an adult, and also I actually quite like Ibuki's dub voice, so it is kind of weird at first to see it, but I mean, look, this franchise has made me go along with weirder. I am interested to see what Link Joker does. They're kind of playing it close to the chest how deleters will work. We got 1 or 2 Link Joker cards come out this week, but they were just sort of standard stuff. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But all in all, I did like this episode. It obviously was mostly trying to fill time at the end, but it kind of did it in a way that was creative. I thought it showed off character personalities in a creative way, and I thought it set up things in a way that was really cool, and I really did appreciate just everything that was sort of done to give the episode kind of a bit more pizzazz, considering at a base level this could have been a nothing 25 minutes of television. But what do you think? Tell me your thoughts on this episode below, everything you thought about it. And as for the Vanguard question of the week, getting back to the Link Joker cards we saw. Again, we saw 2, both of which were just sort of meant to be generic, but as far as the main one we saw, the grade 3 from the trial deck, its effect is that it actually binds them, which is interesting to me, because locking at first was just sort of looked at as stronger Mega Colony, but many of the early Link Joker cards actually had a really tough time balancing out their effect costs, so that was sort of that deck's natural check. But as the deck went on, especially in G format, there's that power creep again. The deck became way too oppressive and way too overpowered. So to see this change feels like maybe a bit of a way to balance the clan out a bit, which I am hopefully excited for. We'll see more in a week or two. But do you think that's a good thing? Do you miss locking? Do you think there was a way to sort of keep it in the game without having to make it too overpowered? Tell me that below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me next week for the reveal of those sweet, sweet deleters.